Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Ken Schwartz.
Hi, I'm Linda Mitchell, 54-year-old elite obstacle racer, award-winning fitness competitor, gym owner, and author. Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat podcast, where we will approach the difficult topics of life, interview inspiring guests, and bring empowerment to all. This community is a place where we can be who we are instead of who others want us to be. Let's get started.
It's Linda Mitchell from Sisterhood of Sweat with a message from Essential Formulas, makers of Dr. Ohhira's probiotics. For over 3 decades, Dr. Ohhira's probiotics has redefined what it means to nourish your gut, blending ancient Japanese fermentation wisdom with cutting-edge microbiology. Unlike conventional probiotics grown in labs, Dr. Ohhira's probiotics formula is naturally fermented for 3 years in a nutrient-rich medium. No artificial additives, no chemical fertilizers, just pure whole food ingredients transformed by time. You'll find non-GMO, 100% vegetarian, and hypoallergenic Dr. Ohhira's probiotics at your favorite health food store nationwide. Discover the Dr. Ohhira difference. Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat, where we are all about empowering women to live stronger, healthier, and more vibrant lives than ever. I'm your host, Linda Mitchell, and today we're diving into a fascinating topic that touches longevity, energy, inflammation, brain health, athletic performance, and even healthy aging. Our guest today is Ken Schwartz, also known as Ken the Scientist, co-founder and chairman emeritus at C60 Power, C60 Power. Ken has a background in science, research, laboratories, fusion reactor projects, and health education. And he's passionate about helping people take ownership of their health. After experiencing what he believes were transformational benefits from Carbon-60, Ken dedicated himself to researching and producing C60 products. Today, we're unpacking the science, the claims, and the growing interest surrounding Carbon-60. I am so delighted to welcome Ken Schwartz to the show today.
Well, glad to be on.
Yeah, I've been trying out your product, C60, for energy, but I also love the fact that it's a good fat that doesn't burn my throat when I take it by a tablespoon. I think I've done straight coconut oil and just had that kind of burning in the throat. And so I like that it's a light oil and I could mix it in things or I could just take it straight. But can you tell everybody what in the heck, for people hearing about Carbon-60 for the first time, that's what the C stands for. What exactly is it?
Well, if you look behind me on the screen, but right in front, C60 is a molecule of carbon. It's got 60 carbon atoms. In fact, it's shaped exactly like a little soccer ball. And it was discovered in 1985, and then they gave it a Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1996. But it wasn't until the early 2000s that they went to test, here's this molecule. It's found in outer space. It's also found on Earth. They were testing for toxicity, and they used what are called Wistar rats. And they're kind of wimpy rats, right? Because if you're looking for toxicity, you don't want street rats. So they found that instead of actually decreasing the lifespan of Wistar rats, it actually increased their lifespan by 90%. So they basically lived a long, healthy rat lifespan. And that was surprising. And that was kind of the first indication that C60, this mysterious molecule, had actually health benefits.
Well, Carbon-60 is sometimes called a Nobel Prize-winning antioxidant. Can you explain the complete history behind that?
Yeah, well, what happened after they discovered its toxicity, people did more things, and they discovered it's what is called a superoxide catalase mimic. And for your audience out there, superoxide dismutase is like a key antioxidant, especially in your mitochondria. And catalase and SOD work together to get rid of superoxide. That's an oxygen with an extra electron, because oxidative stress is basically your body rusting. And so,
Oh, that's terrible. It's
oxygen,
terrible. I'll
yes,
never think about aging the same now.
yes. So an oxygen with an extra electron is the most rusting thing you could imagine. And so C60 neutralizes that. So it'll pass your gut barrier, pass the blood-brain barrier, go into the cells by endocytosis, then into the mitochondria, where it acts as an SOD catalase mimic. And as we get older, our SOD catalase levels tend to go lower in our cells. And so when you take C60, it replaces that missing SOD and catalase, so your mitochondria can turn themselves back on, and you get all the benefits of that.
And for people that don't know, your mitochondria, that is the powerhouse, of the cell. And you're basically helping our cellular energy with C60. What first led you to explore it while working on the fusion reactor project?
Well, the problem was when it's metal oxygen fusions, like not the normal fusion you hear about, there's just a little too many late PhDs and dead professors associated with this research. So I didn't want my crew or myself, ending up in that. So I went out researching and I discovered this stuff called Carbon-60, C60. They gave one set of rats C60, the control group didn't get any. They hit them with a fatal dose of radiation, and the C60 rats lived while the control group, of course, died. So that's when I learned that. I got a couple sources for my crew and myself, and we're all still around, so it worked. And but what happened was I kept using it even after the experiment was over because I had more energy, better mental focus. And then when I went in to see my optometrist about 7 months after starting C60, my DRUs, or dry macular degeneration, had completely disappeared. And my old optometrist, he was really old, had never seen that happen in his many decades of practice.
Wow, that's wild. So you're saying that the rats did better from the radiation because they had the C60?
Yes,
So wouldn't that then translate to people that have cancer and they're getting radiation treatments?
Oh, yes, it is. We've had people that I can't want to talk about the big C word. Sometimes like the third rail. But yes, actually the reason most Wistar rats died of cancer, that type of test rat. But in the Wistar rats that took C60, there were no cases of cancer, which is mainly the reason why they live 90% longer. So yes, it would have that efficacy. And there's a website called whatisc60.org. It's a 501c3, so they can say things that nobody else can. And our company and other companies support them as, this benefit for the community. And so whatisc60.org, you can go there and read about that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, we can't talk about that or even post it.
I know, because you can't make claims. I know how that works. I know.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, again, I've spoken about this a lot lately. It's actually wild because it's such synchronicity, but we've been talking about how important oxygen is and the mitochondria, like I think the last 3 shows I have had. And so I know that we can't make claims about products, but it's nice to know the research, and you could maybe draw your own dots and we could go to that website and look up a little bit more. But that's just wild how you could really help yourself with your aging just by what you're putting in your body and just how you're taking care of yourself. It's so, so important. And you had energy, and vision improvements. How did you notice your overall energy improve?
Well, I just had more energy. And we actually did a study. We never actually published it, but with I think a dozen people. And we found that people kept getting it back that their cataracts were getting less. And their light cataracts. And so we did a study and, it didn't actually improve their cataracts or reduce them, but it actually increased. We had, a PhD research scientist and, approved by the state of Colorado and, optometrist was running. And we found that everybody's vision increased, but it was due to the optic nerve working better, which is, the same with macular degeneration. Because, after I learned about my, healing, my electrical engineer, Gary Rodriguez, in the job, he had severe wet macular degeneration. So that's when I put C60 and MCT oil. Because as you know, medium chain triglycerides can be turned into ketones by your liver very rapidly. And he had a glucose processing issue, type 2 diabetes. So he took a tablespoon a day for 15 months and his severe wet macular degeneration vanished and his type 2 diabetes went subclinical.
So many things are so, so important. Like the number one cause of bladder cancer is not drinking enough water. And just finding these things out it's information. I think information, when you have information, you make better choices. And so, like with the macular degeneration that you're talking about, maybe, the C60 has something in it that you really need for your optic nerve. And again, more studies, this is another topic, are done on pharmaceuticals than on natural products because pharmaceuticals make more money. I would love to see that change. But again, talking about the C60 and the avocado oil inside, can I put this in my coffee, or are the properties not able to be heated?
Oh, no, you can put it in your coffee. You could boil it. It'll do it as long as you don't carbonize it, right? Because it's carbon. So anything that doesn't carbonize, yeah, you could put it in any, soups or in your smoothie or in your coffee. In fact, we have a great one. It's an MCT coconut oil, but we put this great real cinnamon extract, carbon dioxide extract. So it's real cinnamon from Ceylon, and it's really great because a lot of people do the keto coffee in their morning.
I mean, I totally was getting ready to say I do the keto coffee with the Ceylon cinnamon and a pinch of Himalayan pink salt, but I get the kind that's already ground up so it doesn't clump. And then a tablespoon of MCT oil, and all of that is supposed to help you, boost. I mean, I can't make claims, but it's supposed to help.
Yeah.
You boost your metabolism and burn fat around the belly.
Yes, and because that's MCTs do turn into ketones by your thing. So, the key thing about C60 is pretty much it helps any cell type that has a lot of mitochondria. Like your brain cells are like half mitochondria by weight and volume. And another set of cells, which actually have more mitochondria than nerve cells, are the cells of the endocrine system, because they have to put out all those little hormones and stuff. And so they work really hard. And also, your muscle cells, especially your heart. And those kind of cell types are the best that does mitochondria. For instance, our CEO, Jess, she's 49 and just had her first baby. So
wow.
Yes, there's lots and lots of C60 babies out there. That is probably a kind of a co-indicator. If you're using C60, you're in your early 40s, you think you might not have a baby. Well, if you're using C60, be careful because it's happened lots and lots of times.
That's wild. That's so interesting to know. I am going to be 64, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be like, whoa, okay, let's make sure we're good in this department.
Yeah, it's just because any cells, because your mitochondria, they have their own little DNA. And so they just basically, if they don't have the antioxidants they just turn down the knob, right? So they don't produce as much ATP, the energy molecule of the cell, and pregnenolone. They produce pregnenolone, which is the precursor for all the hormones. And they make a little synthesis for RNA and DNA synthesis. Some of the precursors, they're like little factories. They're not just the powerhouse, but they're also a factory. So when you restore mitochondria function, then of course you've got more, not just more energy, but more of the precursors for hormones. So all your hormones will go up. Your melatonin and your pineal gland, your hypothalamus complex, they make human growth hormone, your thyroid, your thymus, all your adrenals. That's another counterindication. If you're on blood thinners, you probably need to talk to your doctor if you're going to take C60, because C60 can restart your adrenal glands.
Oh, okay.
Your adrenal glands make mineral corticoids. They make the androgens, which makes testosterone or estrogen, right? And they make glucocorticoids, which also regulate blood sugar, but they also make mineral corticoids, which are regulate your blood, quote, thickness. So if you take C60 and your adrenals start up again and you're making plenty of mineral corticoids, then you're taking a blood thinner, then your blood can get too thin. So you probably need to do a little bit of testing on that if you're going to do that. Talk to your doctor about that.
What if you're taking nattokinase?
Well, that won't affect it at all. C60 doesn't interact with any substances. It only interacts with two things: the superoxide ion, which is the most damaging oxidative radical in your body, and the hydroxyl ion, which is the second most damaging oxidative radical. Hydroxyl ion is just basically a water molecule with a proton missing. It's the main oxidative radical produced by radiation. That's why C60 was so effective, protecting the rats against the radiation damage, because they could fix the hydroxyl ion radical. So that was That was kind of the key on that. But it doesn't interact with any of the body's signaling molecules. Because you have nitrogen oxide. That's an oxidative radical, and your body uses as vasodilator. You don't really want to mess with that. And then there's a bunch built around sulfur, iron, and zinc that that are oxidative radicals, but your body uses them as signaling molecules, like hydrogen peroxide's another one. And you don't want to deal with it. That's why people, they've done studies. If you take too much vitamin C or D or E, you're eventually your athletic performance goes down. And that's because you're taking too much. But C60, because it doesn't interfere with any of the body's signaling molecules, it has really no toxicity at any level.
So a lot of people suffer from inflammation. What role do free radicals play?
They're 100%. They're really, really the cause of it. There's certainly if it's autoimmune things, your neutrophils go there and they're attacking your own body. They use superoxide molecules as like little machine gun bullets to fight the bacteria, but sometimes they get out of control. Well, C60 neutralizes that. So that's one of the keys. In fact, there was a study with C60 also gets rid of senescent cells and increases telomere length, but it started actually they did a study where they had rabbits and they gave the rabbits arthritis in their knees, right, or their joints, which and then they were going to use C60 as an anti-inflammatory to reduce that inflammation. And of course it did work, right? That was expected because that's what C60 is, an anti-inflammatory. But especially in, cases like that, knees and heart. And for humans, you want to use a little DMSO to drive it in.
So you're saying it did work?
It did work, but what they did after the experiment was over, they sacrificed the rabbits and looked at their joints, and they found that the cartilage had actually regrown.
Wow, that is really.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that. I tore up a knee on a one wheel really badly, and they told me I had to have surgery. Well, now a couple years later, it's perfectly healed, everything like that. But then they found out how did it do this, and they found out that C60 goes into senescent cells. Those are like zombie cells in your body. They're usually the DNA is damaged, and they've gone into the fermentation method. So normally our cells burn oxygen, for your audience out there, but then if they go senescent, they actually go into the fermentation method. So they're making like alcohols and other toxic things that poison all the cells around them, because mainly the main cell doesn't want to die. And so what it does, it stops making antioxidants, and then the mitochondria have to go back into the fermentation cycle too. So this is kind of like got to become a zombie primitive cell. When you take C60 goes into the mitochondria and senescent cells and restarts the Krebs cycle. That's the oxygen burning cycle. And then those mitochondria will send messages to the nuclear DNA of a senescent cell, and they won't get the right message back. So they basically blow themselves up, and that's called apoptosis. It's programmed cell death. It's non-inflammatory, and it basically gets rid of those senescent zombie cells. And now your body has less cells than it needs. And so that stimulates stem cell production. So that's another side effect that people take C60, the senescent cells go away and you get a huge increase in stem cells, which then replace those missing cells. And so actually over time, long periods of time, people actually find that their average telomere length actually increases. Not because the telomeres in any one cell increased, but because that the senescent cells, which usually have very shortened telomeres, have been gone, and they're replaced by stem cells who have a long telomeres, and so average telomere length increases.
Well, that's fascinating. People are going all over the place to get stem cells, but they could just increase their own. And we were talking about the MCT oil, and I already knew that it goes straight to your liver because during competition, when we're cutting back carbs, we increase the MCT oil because it goes straight to the liver and acts like a carb and gives you energy. And I used to take a brain octane, which is like XCT, but it really, I could only take a tablespoon because it would give me electric energy, like so much energy. So I know that all this is true just from doing it myself. I love hearing the science about it. And back to what you said about blood thinners, I always often wondered, because my dad had colon cancer and he had to be on blood thinners. Then he wasn't allowed to have garlic and, kale and certain things that have, properties. But I thought, I guess, my inquiring mind is, why aren't we doing the things that thin the blood that are natural? why are we having to take a farm? I mean, I don't know that you're going to be able to answer this, but my curiosity is,
Well,
okay, why
I'm
can't we
just saying
take the
it's all
things that
about
would
the money
thin the
because
blood that are
that's
healthy?
right. You're not, if you were taking garlic and kale and, other things like
And
that,
C60 and
C60,
natto,
yeah,
canarese.
yeah, but those things can't be patented because
Okay.
they're natural substances. So you're not going to see a lot of studies. I mean, what is C60.org has a lot of studies of C60, but it's the same thing. There you won't see promoting garlic or kale as an alternative because you can't be patented. You can't be money. You can grow kale and garlic out in your garden. And it's one of the problems with our modern pharmaceutical situation that really, I mean, if you want to get good health, you're going to have to work it on your own. And really the foundation of good health is like good nutrition, like good organic
Yeah.
foods,
Yeah.
proper supplementation, clean water, exercise, avoiding toxic situations and people. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. And as we get older, you have to work pretty much harder to keep your good health because it's not, you're the one responsible for your own health. And it takes a lot of work, especially as you get older. And, it's good to have things that can help you get there. C60 is just one. Well, there's basically four, like C60 fits. We have dozens of practitioners, right, that use our products because they want to get their patients healthy. So any treatment they do on top of that. And like in the antioxidant sphere, there's 4 antioxidants that are key to good cellular health. And they're usually endogenous, produced by the cell, but you can supplement for some of them. One's CoQ10. Like if you got gray hair, you should be taking CoQ10. Okay, that's a key thing. Another one is glutathione. And they now have things like liposomal and transdermal glutathione that you can take now. But there was really nothing for SOD and catalase. Because even though you can supplement and put them in your bloodstream, there's really no method that the cells can uptake them into themselves. They're endogenously produced. Well, C60 is a mimic that does a job of both, and it goes right in there. So what you do is, get yourself on CoQ10, glutathione, C60, and it kind of covers that slice of the antioxidants. Of course, you need the vitamin D and the vitamin K and, all that other stuff, but iodine and stuff. But it's kind of one toolkit in the toolkit for good health.
Well, I would rather get my vitamin D outside because I've also heard adverse effects from taking too much vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
So
taking people getting the sunlight is probably the best way.
Yeah,
And
it's the
then you need to
quickest.
also
You're going to get the most, and you're going to be able to assimilate it the best.
Yep. And then you have to have a lot of green leafy vegetables because they have a lot of vitamin K in them. So when you get your sun, then you eat your vegetables, maybe make a smoothie or something so it gets there. And then so yeah, it's a whole process. I mean, I really talk about C60, but for health practitioners and people searching for good health, there's a whole lifestyle way of being that can bring that good health to you.
Why is the C60 good for brain clarity? What are the mechanisms that are the properties in the carbon-60?
Well, basically, it just neutralizes those things because C60 it tends to like to get a little positive charge from taking hydrogen ions from the surrounding environment, and then it use those in the mitochondria. It neutralizes superoxide, which is the most damaging oxidative radical in the body. And the mitochondria, that's kind of a waste product from the mitochondria furnace that's making your ATP. And so when you have as you get older, when you're young, it doesn't matter. When you get older, your SOD levels drop. And so, and catalase levels drop. And until C60 came along, there was no way to supplement for them. So when you take C60, it replaces the missing SOD, and then the mitochondria could turn themselves back up. So you get the more ATP, which is the energy molecule. But also C60 gets everywhere in the cell. So it's like in the endoplasma reticulum and where the ribosomes hang out. And that's just where your proteins are made and your neurotransmitters are made. So it protects them while they're being built, and then it helps them get transported. So now you've got the neurotransmitters you need, you've got the ATP to uptake and downtake them, and all that other stuff so that your brain cells just work more efficiently. And technically, the retina of the eye is actually part of the brain. And so the C60, that's how it was. It fixed my retina, which was where the macular degeneration was happening, because it's part of the brain, and the nerve cells in the retina, like all the rest of the nerve cells, are like half mitochondria by weight, because your brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of your energy. So those cells are doing a lot of ATP production, and so anything you can do to make your mitochondria work better helps. And so CoQ10, glutathione, C60, and things like NAC. And there's a whole bunch of other, I'm not a medical doctor, I can't give medical advice, but there's lots of ones out there. And so they can talk about, because if you think about C60 in like an analogy of a car, if like your brain were a car, C60 would be the radiator fluid. But you still need the engine oil and the right gasoline and the windshield wiper for fluid.
You just reminded me I'm out of NAC. I got to get my NAC.
Yeah, because all of those things works together. There's no magic pill. There's no one thing. You need all of those things. C60 is one tool of the toolkit for good health, but it's certainly not the only one.
Wow, so many things. So then curiosity, because your hearing, your understanding is based a lot on the brain too. Have you had anybody's hearing improve from?
Oh, yes. We've had lots of hearing and eyesight and smell.
Okay. Wow, and that's amazing.
There's another thing. This is anecdotal, cannot be a thing, but we've actually had people come back from strokes and Alzheimer's using C60 and ester ketones. I don't know if anybody's, ester ketone is basically, an ester is an oxygen with you got basically two ketones. So like MCT makes one ketone, but you buy ester ketones. We don't sell it. I've used it myself, but ester ketones and C60 go together like peanut butter and chocolate. And I'm not going to say any. You just be careful on any company you go out there. Like, for instance, our company C60 Power, we're the only one that does third-party testing in the C60 space.
Okay, so where do you suggest? I mean, do you have a brand that you use or that you like?
Delta G. I use Delta G. Okay. I personally use Delta G.
Okay.
And that's one that is they kind of taste, they're kind of strong tasting, but put a little bit in a smoothie and take it. But yeah, because when you take ester over long-term periods, it didn't happen overnight. It was like 50 sessions of like ester ketones and C60, and there's almost miraculous stuff. But I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not making medical claims. Just saying that especially if you're looking out there, you might want to explore ester ketones and C60 together. They're just an amazing pair of products.
Gut health has become a huge focus these days. What potential connections exist there?
Gut health?
Yeah.
Yeah. C60 is really great at gut health because, of course, you take it as an oil, right? It goes in there. But basically, because it increases stem cells over a long period of use, and basically every day your gut replaces its outer layer of cells. And your gut is actually related to your skin. And in fact, I'm kind of getting off the thing, but when you take C60, you get extra stem cells, and that allows your gut lining to like reform more fully. And so you get leakage. People that have like irritable bowel syndrome and all of those people, they take C60 and they found great relief. It reduces their symptoms. I'm not saying it goes away, but it definitely reduces it. In fact, the gut lining, the gut is directly related to your skin. They're endodermal tissue, right? They're in the same tissue type. In the very first human study of C60, they put it in a cream for Japanese women and was found to reduce lines and wrinkles in Japanese women. And of course, that was done because we know now because it increases the stem cell levels. So if you have more stem cells in your skin and you use C60 as a facial product, then it will renew and you'll have less wrinkles. In fact, Jess, our CEO, from her favorite products, back engineered them, and we have a pair of skin things. Have you get that?
I did, and I just used it right before my Strong Fitness magazine shoot, which actually is the September-October cover, and I really liked what's the one? I think it's the C60.
It's there's anti-gravity.
It's this color kind of when you squirt it out, not like the moisturizer, but it's
white. Oh no, yeah. There's white. This is the one C60 anti-gravity serum.
Yeah,
that's the facial serum.
The one. Yeah, I used them both though.
And it has all the cool ingredients in it. I'm a guy, so I don't have all the things, but it smells great. It has all the things. It has like the copper peptides and all those other things.
Oh my gosh!
That help increase skin benefit. The other one's the C60 Youthful Eye Cream, and that's you put like on the under tissue of your eyes, and that has like a bunch of stuff, the copper peptides and a few other things that because of that sensitive tissue to help regenerate and promote healing in the under eye tissues.
So I have a question about the chews.
The gummies?
Yeah, the gummies. I can only eat one at a time. My stomach got upset when I had two. So why would that be?
Well, it's one of the things that has, it's whole coconut oil and pectin.
Okay.
And so it's actually technically it's a fruity because gelatin is a gummy, but it's
Yeah.
people don't know what a fruity is. It sounds weird. So it's so it's probably because and whole coconut oil has a lot of energy in it,
So
and
I
so
just decided to have one,
yep, yeah,
you
because
know,
pectin is a key, also
at
is
a
a
time.
key, one of the key fibers you need. I'm not a medical doctor, can't give, but ileum, which is a short, that's one, pectin's another, and beta glucans, those are like three key fibers. So the
Yeah.
pectin in the gummy kind of fills one of those three things, but you still need the other two fibers, which you can get, eating various.
It was acting strange. It was kind of gurgling like after I
Yeah,
had when I took two, because you know how we are. Sometimes we think of
yeah.
one is good, two is better.
Yeah, really, all you
Yeah.
need is one for enough. Well, two you could do,
Yeah.
one or two is fine. But that coconut energy, because it's whole coconut oil, it can really increase your energy, but in a smoother rate, because it does have the MCTs in it, but it has all the other longer chain triglycerides, which your body will use as fuel. Because because coconut oil is really is an excellent thing, and that's why we use whole. All of our stuff is organic too, organic oils, farm sourced, and all third party tested, which you
Yeah.
can just scan the QR code in there and go your expiration date, and you can see that so your product's safe and effective.
So are there any safety considerations people should know before trying carbon-60 other than the blood thinner?
No, there's no. They've actually, they wondered at what level C60 is toxic. So with rats, they did a study and they took it 10,000 times the health beneficial dose. And even at that levels, there was no toxicity. Now, if you'd done that with vitamin D or vitamin E, it probably would have killed the rat. But with C60, there was no toxicity because you're not going to get any added benefit at such insane levels. But there is no toxicity. C60 has no toxicity virtually at any level.
Which is good for you.
No, you don't need to refrigerate it. If the
Okay.
oils, we kind of pick the Goldilocks of oils. Obviously you don't want any seed oils and those nastiness things, but also you don't want to get like fish oils and hemp seed oil and flaxseed oil. They go rancid so rapidly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I was like thinking.
Yeah, you would
wondering.
never do that. So we
Okay.
picked the Goldilocks of oils. We have olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. It's got the little bite, the polyphenol bite, and we got avocado oil, which is probably the most easily digestible oil. We've got the MCT oil in the liquid form and the whole coconut oil in the gummy. So we kind of picked the Goldilocks of oils there.
How does oxidative stress impact aging and overall health?
Well, first off, oxidative stress is basically your body rusting, and it happens, because your body produces its own, and there's all so many toxins around us. And basically, what they'll do is they'll damage cell walls. The cells, the walls of your cells, so things will leak out that shouldn't happen, or things that will leak in. And there's other things like that, like for years, people thought that like cell phone radiation wouldn't be a problem, right? Because it doesn't heat up the tissue. But now they discovered it actually jams open voltage gated channels, which will cause calcium to leak into your cells. And then that causes inflammation, causes superoxides.
Can that cause calcification?
No, it's just calcium just starts reacting with things all over the place and producing powerful antioxidant radicals like superoxide and hydroxyl ions, which C60 will neutralize. And so that can help protect you there. But of course, the best is not to be exposed to oxidative radiation and the nuclear radiation that's around us now, Chernobyl and Fukushima and stuff like that. And the cell phones and everything else in our environment. And then all the unknown chemicals that, are in our food. It's just, you really have to work hard to protect yourself in the modern environment. And C60 is one of those things that can help you do that, but not the only thing. It's not the magic pill, but it's important.
So if listeners remember one thing today about taking ownership of their health, what would you want it to be?
Well, I would say you could research it yourself at whatisc60.org, and you can go to our website, shopc60.com. And we have on our science part of that, we have like human studies or human stem cell studies or whatever it is that you can do, ethically, because we can't, certain studies. But the What is C60 does it, do your own research, read the testimonials, look at what we have there, and then see if it's something that you'd probably be interested in, because it's been really beneficial for thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people. And we have dozens of doctors who use it as a base treatment. And there's protocols on how much to take and links to various things. And but the whatisc60.org, if you really want to dig deep and learn the science, that's where to go.
So I'm holding a bottle up. I guess you guys on YouTube can't see this, but it's actually a nice little bottle of the C60. And for for people, how much should they take per day?
Well, it's basically the rule of thumb is basically if you have it's basically a teaspoon to a tablespoon. Basically, our thing is if you're younger and you don't have any gray hair, it's a teaspoon. If you're older and have a bit of gray hair, it's a tablespoon. On our website, there's actually a weight and age guide for it, but that's just the rule of thumb. And
okay, so a tablespoon of this per day.
Well, if you're in your 60s or more, like we are.
Yeah,
so.
I did. I took a tablespoon.
Yep.
I think the first time I took a teaspoon. So today I took a tablespoon. I imagine it would give you smooth moves too.
Well, not the avocado oil is especially designed not to do that.
Yeah.
Because when it first came out, it was all the scientific studies were in olive oil because it's well characterized and available. And if I took too much olive oil, I could have a problem. But I could easily digest the avocado oil, which is why I put it in there, kind of for myself. And the first thing you'll notice within the week or two, you got the better mental focus, more energy, and just that brain fog goes away. And then over time, you get these other benefits. Increased stem cell levels, reduction in wrinkles. Just all kinds of other, like it rebuilt my blown out knee and stuff, and fixed. But those took a while, right? Because it was 7 months on my eyes at least. Gary's, who had a severe problem, 15 months. We've had like Hashimoto's. There's another. We had like we had one of our people that work with us. She had Hashimoto's for 30 years, right? Zero function. Gosh. And then after she was having some weirdness, so she goes into her doctor's after taking C60 for about 9 months, and her doctor took her off about a third of her medicine.
That's amazing.
Because what had happened is the C60 got in there and wiped out those senescent cells, which weren't working, and replaced them with stem cells, or her thyroid started working again. And but it was like 9 months, right, of before it was anything.
Well, I mean, like with anything, you have to use it or you have to do it for it to work. You can't just take it once and think everything's cured. And so how much approximately does this cost per day to use? It's about
$4 a dose. We have, if you do subscriptions, obviously it's less. C60, it's kind of hard to make. It's more expensive than gold by weight. And so that's kind of why the price is pricey. We admit that, but that's because it's more expensive. We use 99.99% pure C60 sublimated, which is the purest one you want to use. There's a lot of C60 produced in China that's like 99% pure or 99.9% pure. Well, the rest of that, the industrial stuff, has a little methylbenzenes, the other part of it, which isn't something you want to be in your diet. So you want to make sure you get 99.99% pure C60, which is the purest out there, and sublimated if you can find it. And those are the keys. And of course, third-party test for test, but that should be for any of your supplements. If you've got a supplement, you can find one that's third-party tested. That's probably the one you need to go with.
Well, I'm down because anything that could help you with all of those things, arthritis, your eyesight, maybe your hearing, stem cells, wrinkles, all the things, give you energy, brain clarity. Gosh, there were so many benefits. And since the risk is minimal, of course, if you have blood thinners, again, you wouldn't want to be taking it unless you could.
Oh, and just be careful, because it can cause, unexpected pregnancies.
Yeah,
so
you want to talk to your doctor about that.
Yeah, so that's because Jess is pretty happy with. I think it was 9 pounders. So
the baby. So I think that you've really given us the 411 on what C60 is, and you have a discount code for us.
Yes, we'll have that provided. You can put it in the show notes below for your people.
Right.
And they can try C60 for yourself.
Amazing. All right, you guys, you heard it here. Ken, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your passion. And you guys, if this episode inspired you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, follow us on Instagram at Sisterhood of Sweat, and share this episode with someone who wants to optimize their health, energy, and longevity. And as always, I believe your strongest chapter may still be ahead of you. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep on keeping on. Bye, everyone.
And I hope that all of our listeners have enjoyed this podcast. And if you guys have really enjoyed this, please review us in iTunes and also share this episode with your friends and your loved ones. Thanks again for listening to the Sisterhood of Sweat.